go and they kill, they slam their body. Then I have to convince you to do it again 3 days later, 2 days later. And you're like, dude, the mental energy is going to take me to get there. Like, it shouldn't be. It should be, training should be a pulling force. It should be pulling you. You want to go training. If you don't want to go training, it's not fun. If it's not fun, you're not going to do a lot of it. And if you're not going to do a lot of it, you're never going to reach mastery. So how do I make it pleasurable? How to make it fun? I have to be in a flow state. And you can get into a flow state in almost anything. But when you're out of that flow state, cut it. We're going to get further. We're going to do more training if we cut it today and come back in tomorrow. Because I'm a big believer in consistency over intensity. Intensity should be done once in a while. Because by nature, intensity can only be done once in a while. If you're going hard every day, you're not really going hard every day. You can't go your max every day. There's a cost to going to your max. Can you sprint every single day? You cannot sprint every single day. It's ludicrous. You can sprint once or twice a week. The best sprinters in the world, they sprint once or twice a week. Nobody sprints every day. Because intensity, by nature, entails that you need to take a break. Because if you don't need to take a break, you didn't really go to your maximum intensity. If you lift your maximum lift, the maximum amount of reps, the maximum weight you can lift. If you do 2 reps, that wasn't your max. Because if it was, you wouldn't have a second rep in you. You understand? Right. I would have to give you a break for you to have a second rep. So we didn't find your true max, right? Intensity, maximum effort entails you have to stop. Because it's the maximum. There was no more reserves. There are no more reserves.
So what do you think about people that say there's no such thing as overtraining?
Here's the John Denner narrative, and he coins it really, really well. He says, look, it's under rest. So he says, look, you couldn't overtrain if you didn't give your body the rest later.
Yeah.
But he says, look, no matter how hard I push in practice, if I didn't kill myself, I can rest from it and recover and have super compensation. I agree with that.
Some guys have made great strides with just mental fortitude and mental strength, overtraining the shit out of themselves.
Okay, but can I ask you this?
Yes.
They were successful, yeah?
Yeah,
okay.
But their bodies break down.
Right. But could they have been better if
Possible.
they used flow? Exactly.
Right.
As
But
good as they were.
Like Dan Gable, for
Right.
example. Like what Dan Gable essentially was done in his 20s, right? In terms of like his body's broken down.
Exactly.
Knee replacements, hip replacements, that kind of deal.
Let me ask you this. Who wins more often, Russians or American wrestlers?
Russians.
Every time an American wrestler wins, he's like some prodigy. He's rare. It's rare. It does happen, but it's rarely he's a technical master.
Right.
However, you have these Russian guys that win gold medals. You've never heard of them, and they're like Michael Jordans of the sport.
Yeah.
There's just so many of them. They train long, consistent practices. Whereas in America, we do Monday, Wednesday, Friday hard. We kill it. And then you rest Tuesday, Thursday. The Eastern Bloc had a totally different understanding. They're like, it's volume, volume, volume. Near the fight, short and intense. Only near the competition phase. But before that, it's the maximum amount of volume you can. Imagine me and you we're 2 athletes, A and B. You're A and B. You're training jiu-jitsu 3 times a week really, really hard. You're going all out. I'm training jiu-jitsu every single day. My average practice is 2 hours. Your average practice is 2 hours. But when you go in, you kill it. Like you go with all the black belts and you kill it. At the end of the year, I'm averaging 2 practices more than you. So I've had 100 practices more than you by the end of the year. 104 practices. Let's give 2 weeks for vacation. 100 practices more than you. 200 hours more than you have been training. When we roll, your intensity that you put on the mat is going to be irrelevant. Why? Because I've also tasted that intensity periodically. It's not that much of a factor now. When you go super aggressive on me, when you attack me aggressively, I have felt that. I know how to deal with it. Plus, I have an extra 100 hours on you. 200 hours. So I'm going to mangle you. You know what I'm saying? The volume is far more important than the intensity. The intensity, by nature, is need to be done periodically. If you do it every day, it's not intensity.
So how do they structure their training?
They're more playful. You know, they kind of warm up, they kind of flow roll, they do a lot of technique, high emphasis on technique. Now, a lot of people hearing this are gonna be like, well, the Russians also are funded by their government. You know, their government supports them a lot more than maybe an American wrestler. Okay, I agree with that. There are many factors. However, we cannot deny that they're technically, I hate to say the word superior, but they're technically more advanced, technically, when it comes to wrestling. They have a more of a flow understanding. They play around, and the practice gets more and more intense until you see them going really, really hard. They're going live, you know? They're going really, really rough. But they were playing. They have a more playful attitude. Look at the Cubans. You ever see Cubans sparring? They're like 50 guys in a room. They're just touch sparring. There's no headgear. There's no mat on the floor. They're literally sparring on concrete. You think they're really trying to drop each other? They're on concrete. I mean, the Cubans are the top boxers. They consistently win gold medals, but in practice room they're playful. Nobody gets hurt. Like you're saying, the Thais. The Thais are just if you go in there and you kick a Thai really hard, he won't spar with you anymore. He'll be like, this guy's too amateur. There's a time and place for intensity. I'm not anti-intensity. I think there's a time and place. Like Angelo Dundee was probably arguably the greatest boxing trainer in history. He says, look, fighting is for fight night. In practice, it's only practice. George St. Pierre has that attitude, and I think that's why he's so good and so healthy today. You know, because he never hurts his sparring partners. People line up to want to spar with him. It's a joy to spar with him.
Yeah, I love this idea and I love this approach. I think that we have this attitude that you have to be tough. We have this attitude that you have to work hard. And I mean, I've fallen prey to that many, many times in my life, where you just got to be tougher. You got to work out harder. You got to push harder. But when I read Pavel's stuff, one of the first things that struck me is like, well, yeah, of course, if you just do 5 reps every day, and then you won't be sore, you could do it more often, and then your body, like, you get farmer strength. Like,
Exactly.
Where's farmer strength come from? Farmers
Exactly.
they're not going to exhaustion.
No.
You know, they're not
No.
like throwing hay bales to the point where, you know, they're heaving, they put their hands on the knees and like, come on, 5 more.
Exactly. You should never be sore.
yeah.
If you're sore, you overdid it.
Whoa.
Because I can't train the next day if I'm sore.
I
opened
overdo
the
it
wound.
every time I work out then.
What's that?
I said I've overdone it
You
every
may
time I
have.
worked out.
You may have. You may have. You gotta
There's a lot of people listening to this right now going, wait a minute, what? How the fuck?
make your workouts a 7 out of 10 and do them every day. You're gonna get far more training hours. You're gonna spike your metabolism far more often. Your energy levels, your mood is gonna be far more up, and training is gonna be more addictive.
Now, what kind of training do you do at this stage? Like, you're not competing, but you're constantly in there sparring with guys who are professionals, and you're constantly training them. Like, what kind of stuff do you do?
I do jiu-jitsu, wrestling, Muay Thai, and a small amount of conditioning after practice. I'm too bored. I find jumping hurdles and throwing, like, doing weights and stuff. Me personally, I don't find that I don't have to take that much enjoyment of it. I can do 5 to 20 minutes in a practice.
Isn't that because sparring is just so fun?
So much fun. I'm in a flow state. We're having fun. You know,
Right.
we're wrestling. I think conditioning, you can't get away with it. You need it. You need it. And we got to talk about what George was saying on your podcast, that he doesn't do strength and conditioning. There's a language issue there. There's a language issue. And we got to talk about that, because we've done tremendous amounts of strength and conditioning, me and George, like tremendous, like barrels full. Okay. And, but he has a different definition. There's a misunderstanding. Okay. So I really want to clarify that. But me personally, like, look, if we roll for an hour, for me, it passes like this.
Because it's so fun.
It's so fun. We're having a good time. I'm fascinated. Like, oh, you grabbed like this. Like, I'm always learning new things.
Right.
To do swing a kettlebell, to do push-ups, pull-ups, I can only do that for a fine amount of time. So I'll put a timer, 3 rounds, 2 minutes, and I'm doing it. And I bite the bullet and I do it. It keeps me healthy. But I don't go in practice to just do that. That I never do. It's always after my workout, after I do jiu-jitsu.
So you never have a day where you say, today I'm going to do Olympic lifting.
No, I don't think Muhammad Ali ever did that. Muhammad Ali never, he boxed and then he did his conditioning. Mayweather does his conditioning, then he boxes. It always came together. Why? When I go to the gym, I'm going to go to have fun. I'm going to go wrestle. I'm going to go box. I'm going to have a blast. Then I'm going to grab the kettlebell. I'm going to do a few presses. I'm going to do a few Turkish get-ups, and I'm done. Because I need to have some general fitness. You have general fitness, then you have specific fitness. Specific fitness is to get better at my sport. General fitness is to keep me healthy, strong, and allow me to reach new levels of athleticism that later, in the long term, can translate to my sport later. But if you just do your sport, in my opinion, your system's going to break down. Your back's going to break down. Your knee's going to break down. Your shoulder's going to break down. You need to stimulate certain muscles that are not getting stimulation in your specific sport. You create atrophy in certain muscles because you're not using them really.
Right.
I need to work my stabilizers. I need to swing the kettlebell. I need to squat. I need to do certain exercises.
Like, what are the standard cores? Kettlebells, is that like
Triple
your main
extension is number one. So any type of squatting maneuver. I don't particularly use the squat. I like to use
triple extension?
triple extension. So your knee, hip, and ankle are bending. So like a squat. Your knee, hip, and ankle are bending. I like to jump. I like to throw the med ball a lot against the wall. I like to do hurdles. I like to do box jumps. I like to very low impact plyometrics. I like sprinting. Sprinting is huge. You ever do the beep test?
What's that?
Oh, you got the space for the beep test here. You got to implement beep test. It's the best way to do cardio.
Really?
You ever hear the soccer players use it a lot? It's a beep, right? You run, you beep, and then it beeps back. And the faster the beeps go, the faster you have to run.
Ah.
That's really amazing. Because what I do is I set a timer for 5 minutes. I put it on a high pace, and I put it at 10 or 11, and then I'll just shuttle back and forth. And it tells you how fast to run, the beat test. And some days I feel really good, I'll do 11. Because I know how fast I have to run to keep up with the beats. And that's amazing for cardio. It's short, sweet, painless, and it translates very well to sports.
Do you do Tabatas? Do you ever do Tabatas?
Tabatas are good, yeah. I think Tabatas are good. If they're done well, they're good. But again, you have to do it in a way that doesn't create soreness. Tabata can create soreness. I wouldn't do Tabata kettlebell swing. That'll cook my hamstrings. I'll probably do like hurdle jump. Like you take a small hurdle and you just hurdle over it for 20 seconds.
Now, what you're saying, though, like, there's got to be a bunch of CrossFit people out there right now that are screaming into their phone.
They're wrong. All due respect. They're wrong.
I like it. Say all
They're
due
wrong.
respect.
With all due respect, they're wrong. Let me tell you why.
Okay.
And look, if you like CrossFit, do it. Whatever motivates you, do it.
Okay.
CrossFit's problem is it's fatigue seeking.
Yeah.
It says, look, go out there and burn yourself out.
Yeah.
That's totally wrong. They're not building any skill. Show me a guy who's a champion in CrossFit, champion in Jiu-Jitsu. That guy would need 2 lifetimes to reach mastery in both of those. Why? Because my CrossFit workout is going to tax me so much. I cannot learn armbar, sweep, triangle choke, double leg takedown, underhook. I've taxed my whole system. My system is in recovery. When your system is in recovery, what can you do but rest? You understand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Rafa Mendes. Do you think Rafa Mendes, one of the arguably the greatest pound for pound, one of the greatest pound for pound jiu-jitsu guys in the world, do you think he's got a great CrossFit workout that he's really mastered, he's really good at? Do you think he has a great back squat? Do you think he's a great deadlifter?
Doesn't look like it.
No, he doesn't. Believe me. You think Gordon Ryan? He's a great Olympic lifter? No, they're always going to be at an amateur level in the fitness world. Why? Because if they were experts, they would have taken so much from their jiu-jitsu. Like look at George. He does gymnastics. Okay, and I'm the one who I twisted his arm a little to put him in gymnastics.
Why?
Because I thought it would give him tremendous benefit because of the amount of, first of all, they use a lot of body weight, so it doesn't cost us anything neurologically. Body weight exercises are very easy to recover from. Body weight exercises are very easy on the nervous system. They use leverage instead of weights. Plus, the stabilizer strength is unbelievable. So, and of course, I wanted coordination. I felt George was a little bit stiff, mechanical. And the tumbling makes you more fluid. I thought I would create more efficiency this way. So we get him there, and there's difficulties. Okay, from A to F. We're still at A and B, and he'll always be at A and B. Maybe he'll touch C in his career, but he'll never get to F. You'd have to start really young, and you'd have to do it full time. You know, imagine somebody trying to get good at jiu-jitsu doing it part time. He'll never get good. He'll be so-so. He'll reach such a level. CrossFit is too fatigue-seeking for an MMA fighter. Now, if CrossFitters followed, if they just followed that 70% rule, they could, and periodically went to their max, periodically, as opposed to every single workout, go totally out. I bet you their top guys don't go all out every day. I bet you if you watch what their top guys do, they taper off the workout. They make the workout between 70 and 85% of their true max, and they work volume. And then closer to competition, they go higher in intensity. I guarantee you that's what the best CrossFitters do. There's no way that the guy who goes balls out every day is going to add up as much workout and as much training time as the guy who's going 70 to 85% of his max. There's just no way.
But when they do those classes, like say if they do a CrossFit class, and I'm speaking out of ignorance, honestly, because I only watch them on video. I've never done a CrossFit class. But it seems to me they're competing against each other.
Yeah, they're going all out, trying to set a PR every class.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. All due respect, I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
But why is it so popular?
Because people think that's right. Because why? Because when you watch a prime time or a fight, the guy's at the peak. He's at a point in his training camp where he's at the high end of intensity. So people are always watching the last part of your camp, the part where you're peaking, and then you're gonna go taper off for 10, 15 days. They don't see that part, and they don't see the months before where you ramped up to that level. They just see the last 2-3 weeks where it's the last few sparrings, and we're mimicking fight speed to the maximum as we can. We're flirting with danger here. We're only doing it a little bit, but that's the part everybody's watching. So they think, oh, if you want to become really good, you have to flirt with danger every day. If that's what their workouts are. If you see George train throughout the year, you'd be like, hey, that wasn't so intense. That wasn't so intense. There's another really mellow practice. I remember when I was younger, I was training at the Grant Brothers gym, and I would see Otis Grant. You know, he's a world champion boxer. Everybody knew him in Canada. He's the man. And he was training really relaxed. I was like, dude, I'm training harder than him. but that's his millionth workout. It was my 10th, you know? He's doing in the long run. He's added way more years of training. So that's when I started to understand that the champion, the best guy, he's training for the long run. It's far more intelligent. He's getting far more workouts in than me that's burned out, and the next day I need a rest.
Right. Yeah.
So it's consistency over intensity. Intensity entails you need to take a break. There's no way around it.
So if you're a young person listening to this and you've got a coach that's trying to burn you out every day, what the fuck do you do?
I don't know.
Coach, if you go into the gym and go, you know what? I was listening to Faraz Sahabi the other day, and Faraz is saying you're a retard.
Here's my you know, when I roll with guys, I think they feel when I grab them, I'm grabbing them gently, and they realize it. And I'll let guys pass my guard. Like, I'll just go ahead, start second trick, and they'll get the message that we're just kind of playing around.
Right.
And then later, when we're going more intense, you know, they'll feel it. They'll feel the intensity. But I don't always roll hard.
You know, one of the things that when we were talking about the muscle mass, I started thinking about this time-restricted eating. Have you heard about this at all? Time-restricted eating?
A little bit.
Like eating within like a certain time period that corresponds to like the day. It has really profound effects on muscle mass without any other factors, without having to exercise or anything. That's extremely interesting. But this like time-restricted eating it's very important for health and metabolism. It's also something I've been obsessed with since like probably early summer. I've been doing it like just really fanatically making sure that I'm eating within like a no more than 12-hour period. I try to do like 10 hours. So like when you wake up in the morning, you have a cup of coffee or eat even a cup of black coffee. The first thing you put into your system that's not water starts all these metabolic enzymes. Starts them in your liver, your gut. Starts these enzymes, and those enzymes are on the clock because humans are diurnal creatures. We're meant to be awake and working and active and thinking during the day, and we sleep at night, which is different from nocturnal creatures, some rodents, animals that are sleep during the day and active during night. So because we are active during the day, we're diurnal. All of our metabolism enzymes, all these things are active during the day, and things that activate them are light exposure, and also food. The xenobiotic is also something. So anything that gets metabolized by your system or your liver or whatever activates these enzymes. And once they're activated, they're on this like 12-hour clock where it's like, okay, so you're metabolizing glucose, fatty acids, all these things, well, if you're eating within that 12-hour clock. But when you go beyond that 12-hour clock, that's when things start to go really wrong. Because your metabolism enzymes start to shut down and you're not doing things properly, so you're not like insulin responsive, you're not even fatty acids and things like that. Just metabolism in general is not working as well, after 12 hours. And so that's kind of a big eye-opener. I know there was a lot of people think they eat a 12-hour time period. Like if you were to survey them, like, oh yeah, I don't eat more than 12 hours. But there's actually a study done by a friend of mine who's an expert in this field at the Salk Institute. His name is Sachin Panda. A very good scientist. I interviewed him on my podcast. He's done a lot of research on this topic, and he did a human study where he had like this app where people they took pictures of the food that they ate, and it sent it to some database they had, and it had a timestamp on it, so they could see when their first cup of coffee or whatever was in the morning, and then when they were eating at night. Turned out most people were actually eating on a 15-hour clock, so they were having their cup of coffee, at 8, 7 in the morning, and they were eating at like 9, 10 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah, so they were eating much later. The thing is that like when you do that, you start to gain more fat. You start to become more insulin insensitive, and you start to your muscle starts to waste.
Regardless of what you eat?
Regardless of what you eat. So okay, no, I take that back. So if you eat healthy, so if you're eating a terrible diet, and this has been shown in mice, like lard, fat plus sugar. Those two together, which is the actual bad combination.
I'm glad you brought that up. I'm going to make a note, but keep
okay.
going.
Those two are the bad combination. So if you're feeding the mice that, and you let them eat whenever they want, so they can eat. They're nocturnal, but I'm just going to call it day.
Single
and their days
victory
actually night.
doesn't
Just
win a
know that
war,
that's true. If
but
they're
it's a
eating
start.
during the day and night,
Good work.
they gain like tons of weight, become fat, become like type 2 diabetic,